Yeah, I can see the trainer joining in. So, Mani, are you settled down? So, are you in the
Yes,
call?
yes, yes. Yes, right, Saga, I'm here. We can start the today's session.
Okay, yeah. So you can share your screen. Once you share your screen, let me know. I'll just end from my end as well. Okay.
Sure, 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 sure. Guys, hi guys, how are you?
Fine, thanks, Mani. How about yourself?
I'm good too.
Excellent.
Right. So what about the feedback of yesterday class?
I learned something new.
Yes.
I know it's early days, and with the workbook, hopefully, we should be able to make some positive notes on it.
Right.
And with your diagrams, we should be able to elaborate and we
Yes.
should be able to understand.
Cool. Right, guys. So just give me a second. I'll be sharing my screen for a while. Right, Sagar. I'm sharing my screen.
Yeah, yeah, sure, Mani. I'll just stop from my end.
Right. All right, guys. So let us get back to the previous slide, or let's start with the revision part that we already done yesterday, right? So the day one, I already shared these all notes with Sagar, and Sagar might be give you these notes. Right, guys. So we already done with what is firewall and types of firewall. How does firewall work, right? And we also did uh, something like your next generation firewall and packet filtering, right? And we already learned about the stateful and stateless inspection type in firewalls, right? So, guys, so can anyone explain me what is static or static packet filtering, or I can say stateless packet filtering?
Um, Static packet filtering is when the traffic flows from inside to outside, the firewall is able to
Right,
capture those informations in the connection table. I mean,
right.
it captures the information of the session, and then this is called an stateful packet filtering. In stateless packet filtering is like it's only a one-way communication. Example might be like ACL.
Yes. So you are right. And what about the static one? Because that was the example that you gave me is for stateful. Stateful means we are creating a state. Stateless means there is no state, right?
For example, for stateful is like TCP handshake.
Yes, TCP three-way handshake. Before sending any data packets from our inside to outside network, we always create one TCP session, right? So for the TCP session, suppose someone trying to create one SSH session, right? For SSH session, we do have different packets. That is not only for TCP session, right? We can also create first packet entry of SSH session, right? That is not only for TCP session, but most of the time that would be your TCP session, right, guys? All right. Anyone would like to add more words to static packet filtering?
Yeah, the static works on layer 3 and layer 4,
right?
whereas stateless works from layer 1 to layer 7,
Right,
which does a deep inspection, especially the application layer inspection.
right.
And with the
Yes.
stateless, there is no connection that is established. So therefore, incoming traffic from the WAN is denied.
Right. All right, guys. So I can see you are well prepared with your yesterday class. So let's move further with something new in the Palo Alto, right? So today we are gonna learn about some new features in Palo Alto. Like first of all, in today's session, I'll be covering two, three things like what is next generation firewall. The next topic in today's class I'll be covering is your architecture, Palo Alto architecture, right? And the third topic uh, that we will look at the lab part, means how I designed that lab and how you can access the server and how it works, right? And in further classes we will take the access of our Palo Alto firewall, right? We will get the access of CLI access and GUI access of our firewall, right? So this would be the third topic that we would be covering in today's class, right? So again, same question that we already did in our previous classes. We already gone through it. What is next generation firewall? Same question. Anyone?
The next generation firewalls, basically the traditional firewalls, they operate from layer 4 to layer 1. The
Mm-hmm.
next generation firewall operates from layer 7 to layer 1, and it does the packet inspection as well. So it checks the ports, and
Right.
it has the
Right.
app ID and some other ID as well.
All right. Uh, Partially correct, I can say like that, but not 100% correct. Let me tell you what's the main difference between the legacy firewall and the next generation firewall. So this is your next generation firewall, and this is your legacy firewall. If we talk about the features of legacy firewall and the next generation firewall, like we can enable NAT on this firewall. Sorry, NAT feature, network address translation. We can also enable PAT. Right? In case of Palo Alto, we do have two types of NAT. Two types of NAT. One is source NAT, and the second one is destination NAT. Right. So with the legacy firewall, we can perform both type of NAT. Right. But if I talk about next generation firewall, we can perform app filtering or application filtering, I can say, right? User ID filtering. User ID is a feature. Basically, we can filter any particular type of users by enabling this feature, right? But my legacy firewall don't have these all features, right? We can enable NAT PAT. We can filter any URL, but that is not a kind of smart filter. Means you can disable any particular URL. For example, you have facebook.com. It will totally ban this URL, right? But let's say we do have different URL like chat.facebook.com. that would be allowed. Right, so that's the difference between legacy firewall and next generation firewall. In case of next generation firewall, it will do the deep packet inspection. It means my firewall. Suppose we have one IP packet over here, right? So here we have information. Suppose this is my HTTP packet, right? So we have IP header. This part is your IP header part. IP header, where you have source IP information, destination IP information, source port information, destination port information, right? This would be your IP header. And this is your payload part, where you have original data. This is your payload part, right? So if I talk about my next generation firewall, it will perform a deeper packet inspection on your payload. Means it is also checking your payload, means what type of data you are containing. But if I talk about legacy firewall, your legacy firewall only check your IP header, it won't check your payload. That's the main difference. That's the main difference between legacy firewall and next generation firewall. My next generation firewall checks the payload, but my legacy firewall only checks the source IP, destination IP, source port or destination port, right? Or we can suppose facebook.com port 80 traffic, right? Again, source port and destination port. But if I talk about our next generation firewall, suppose we have X user who is who attached one file. Suppose this is your zip file, right? With this zip file, the X user attached some kind of malicious file. So my next generation firewall will be able to detect it. In case of legacy firewall, it won't do the deeper packet inspection, so that packet would be passed from your outside to inside network. So this is the main difference, I can say. So that would be your main difference. Again, next generation firewall adopted all the features of legacy firewall. Means next generation firewall is your advanced firewall, as we already know that, right? So now guys, let's move to next topic for the day, which is next generation firewall. We already done with that. So here in this picture, we have one example. Right? So in traditional firewall, so this is your traditional firewall in the red block, right? You can see packet on port 53 is allowed. Packet on port 53 is allowed. Visibility on port 53 is allowed, right? So it means port 53 is allowed. In that case, BitTorrent also using port 53, right? Port 53, and my firewall will directly allow it. It will never check the website or the URL and all, right? It will directly it will check only the port number and allow the traffic. But in case of next generation firewall, we have an app ID feature. With the app ID feature, we can block this particular kind of URL. So here you can see DNS is allowed, but BitTorrent DNS is denied. This is just because app ID feature. It means we can block certain apps, certain application to access our network, inside network, right? So this is the main difference, I can say. This is one of the difference uh, between traditional firewalls and next generation firewalls, right? Before, we don't have app ID feature in my traditional firewalls, but our next generation firewall has this feature, which is app ID feature. So we already gone through with it many times. If you joined our previous
Mani,
session,
actually, The Palo Alto only having the feature which is app ID, or all other firewalls are also having app ID feature.
Yes, yes, definitely. But they are also next generation firewall. Palo Alto says is app ID, but Checkpoint says is application filter. Different name, but working is same. Yes.
Hi, Manny. The diagram you've shown
Yeah.
really show the fundamental of how the firewalls are working.
Works. Right.
But unfortunately, the two file that Sagar has sent, out of those two files, I don't see the layout, that diagram. So is this
I'll
the...
share, yeah, I'll share you the updated one, because recently, just half an hour before,
Okay,
I just
okay,
added
sure.
this diagram,
Okay,
right?
that's what I was wondering. I thought that, the
Yes.
diagram is clearly, it explains very well, but I didn't see it. Thank you.
Right. Thank you very much. So, guys, apart from this next generation firewall feature in our PAN OS, Palo Alto Firewall, we do have multiple features like panorama. This is one of the best feature of this firewall. Traps, wildfire. We already discussed about wildfire, right? So with Panorama, a network security control center that allow customer to manage a fleet of firewall at an enterprise scale from a single console. It means, suppose you have 50 firewalls deployed in your running network. You can manage all 50 firewall, or you can deploy a single policy on all 50 firewall with one click. You just need to click on commit after creating the policy, and the same policy will be deployed to your all 50 firewalls. This is your panorama feature, right? We in that case, we are mapping, suppose this is your 50, 49, 45, 25, whatever it is, right? Suppose you have this 1, 2, 3, 4 firewalls, you can manage it centrally. In short, I'm covering it in short, right? But in further classes, I'll be spending more time on this feature, right? Definitely, I'll be spending more time on this feature, right? So you don't need to worry about it. So just we are just going through with a small recap of this feature, right? So now, guys, let's move to the today's session, right? So today, I'm gonna discuss about the Palo Alto architecture, is how they designed and how my firewall works, and what kind of architecture they have installed in your firewall, right? So this would be the most important topic in terms of interview. Maybe your interviewer will ask you some questions about your architecture, Palo Alto architecture. Every firewall has a different architecture. Always remember, every firewall has their own architecture and packet processing. It means how my firewall processing packet from suppose someone sending any traffic from inside to outside, how my firewall is going to conduct the checks, right? So every firewall has a different packet flow. Every firewall has a different architecture, and that is the only main thing. And uh, so today we are talking about Palo Alto architecture, right? So in Palo Alto, we have single pass parallel processing architecture, which is called SP3 architecture. So now let's start with the architecture part. So Palo Alto next generation firewall are based on a unique single pass parallel processing architecture. Right? Unique. It is unique. No one can copy it. Next, every single layer of protection, antivirus, spyware, data filtering, and vulnerability protection, utilize the same stream-based signature format, right? The allow, sorry, this allows span to buffer and inspect a packet at the same time. It can do all three parallel to each other with single pass architecture. Below are the benefit of single pass architecture, single pass parallel procession architecture. Let me tell you in short. Let me tell you the story behind it. Right. So guys, let's move back to the notepad and suppose this is your firewall, a big box, and we have enabled some features like URL filtering, app ID, SSL, encryption/decryption, right? So we have enabled all these three features. Suppose this is my firewall and we enabled these three features. Now this is my inside interface, this is my outside interface, right? It means we are sending all the files from this direction, from your inside interface. And suppose I have sent one zip file. I've sent one zip file, right? The file size is 100 KB. This is my file size. Now, how my firewall works. So this zip file will move to URL filtering part. If that is okay, then this file will move to app ID part. If that would be fine, then it would be moved to SSL encryption. Then my firewall will out this packet from this direction, from their outside interface, right? This is how it works. Now, if I talk about the time, right? Suppose it is taking 1 second. URL filtering taking 1 second. Application ID scanning taking 1 second of time, and the again SSL encryption is taking 1 second of time, right? It means to process this packet from inside to outside, we need 3 seconds, right? My firewall taking 3 seconds of time to process 100 KB of data. Now, if I talk about legacy firewall, we use this kind of filtering. That is for legacy firewall. But if I talk about my Palo Alto firewall, we have different kind of feature over here, right? Or we can filter any particular packet in a different way. This won't be the way, right? Guys, have you understand this point? Why it is taking 3 seconds?
Yeah, it's going through the each module in order to achieve the output, basically.
Yes, right. So each model you can say, or each engine, right? URL filtering is an engine into your firewall. App ID is also an engine. SSL encryption decryption is also an engine, right, into your firewall. Right now, what is parallel processing architecture according to the Palo Alto? Single pass parallel processing architecture. Now, my firewall, Palo Alto firewall, has the same feature but in a different architecture. Let me show you. This is your URL filtering. Again, this is your box. But now you have URL filtering, SSL encryption. Next is app ID. or application control, I can say, right? Now, from this direction, my packet is entering. This is my inside interface. And this is my outside interface. Right, guys? This is my inside interface, and the another one is my outside interface. Now, suppose again we have zip file, 100 KB size of this file, right? Zip file uh, that already has 100 KB of data with it, right? Now, how my Palo Alto firewall processing this packet? So this is my Alto firewall. Now, once we receive this packet on my inside interface, we will make the 3 copies of this packet. One copy, second copy, and the third copy. So now my packet taking only 1 second. My firewall taking only 1 second to process this packet. 1 second, 1 second, and 1 second. It means within a 1 second, my firewall will process this packet from inside to outside. Guys, are you getting my point?
Yep.
How we reduce the time. So this is the main difference between other firewalls and the Palo Alto firewall architecture. Right. So now to process 100 KB of data, we just need 1 second. We don't need 3 seconds. We just change the way, right?
Yeah.
This is your This is your single pass parallel architecture of your firewall. Single pass parallel processing architecture, SP3, right? So by doing this, we got some advantages like increasing performance, right? Now your performance got increased because it is taking less time to process your packet. Next is low latency, right? It means delay. And next is high throughput. It means your firewall forwarding packet very highly, means in a speedful manner, right? Next is your network security also gets improved after this architecture now, right? So this is your single pass parallel architecture. So I'm done with my story. Now let's move to the book part, or I can say the bookish language. So just go through with it. Uh, it will match the same story again, right? Now, Palo Alto solves the performance problem that plague today security infrastructure with SP3 architecture, which combines two complementary components. So now we have two main components of our firewall. One is single pass software, right? And the next is parallel processing hardware, right? So guys, the hardware architecture I showed you, like this is your URL filtering, app ID, and SSL filtering. So basically, we changed this, we made these changes into your hardware, right? Not in software. If you look at software wise, if you look at your GUI portal, you have all the different option on the left hand side, right? But the main processing unit is your hardware part, right? Because your hardware is processing the data, not the software, right? So if I talk about the software, again, software we have single pass software, but the hardware we have is parallel processing hardware. This would be your parallel processing hardware. Let me show you one image. So this would be the image, right? So now my packet going from this direction to this direction. This is your inside again, and this is your outside. I can say like that, right? So now my firewall, how my firewall processing the packet. Now my firewall sending packet to all these filters through this all these filters, right? So this is your basically this is your software part where you configure policies, app ID, user ID, content ID feature, and even normal routing and all kind of things which we already have in my software part. But if I talk about hardware, so this portion shows you how my hardware part installed in my firewall. Right. So guys, you already understand we do have three types of traffics: control plane traffic, management plane traffic, and the next one is data plane traffic. Right. Now what they did is, suppose this is your firewall, and we can divide it into two panels. So here we have control panel, sorry, control plane. Okay. Let me create one diagram for you. This is your firewall. Right. Management plane, and this is my forwarding plane, or data plane, you can say in other words. Suppose this is your firewall, and we do have three types of traffic. Now, if I talk about the management plane, right? What is management plane, or can anybody give me an example of management plane traffic? Anyone would like to try it?
SSH, remote access, like control, like SSH into the device, telnetting into the device, those kind of things.
Yes, definitely. Telnet is just a protocol, guys. Or SSH is also a protocol. But again, I'm talking about management plane traffic.
The administrator will be doing administrative work task will be done in a management plan.
Yes, suppose this is your client or PC, user A, and we are accessing this firewall with GUI, and we click on commit. Once we click on commit, my user, means my device, sending these all commands to my firewall. So this is your management traffic. Right, guys? This would be your management traffic if you are sending any commands to your device. That would be your management traffic. Right now, every firewall has these three planes: management planes, control plane, and the forwarding plane. Now, so this is your management plane traffic. Now let's talk about control plane traffic. Now, what is control plane traffic? Anybody would like to give an example of control plane traffic?
Is it routing?
Routing table. Basically, we create one routing table. Once we enable the routing in our router, my router creates one routing table, also creates one topology table. Right. So my control plane has all these tables. Suppose MAC table in switch. This MAC table would be installed into your control plane. Right. And now this is my forwarding plane, where we have lots of port connected with it. Suppose 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So this firewall has 8 port, right? And someone sending data from this, and from this port number 1 to port number 8. So my forwarding plane will take all the decision from control plane, because my control plane has routing table with it, right? Suppose someone send one data from port 1. Port 1, I'm getting one HTTP request, and it enters to my firewall. right? Once we receive this packet on this point, we have to check this request with my control plane. If my control plane, my control plane will let us know where we need to send this data. Now my control plane will tell you that send this data from port number 8, because my control plane is a kind of processor, I can say, uh, like that, right? Guys, are you getting my
Yep.
point? Right? Because my control plane has all the network information where we have to send this packet. We do my control plane contains routing table, topology table, MAC address table, even IP addressing of all interfaces. So this is my decision maker, control plane. Now control plane decides where you have to send this data, and this is how my forwarding plane works, right? So all engines are connected together. You can say like that, right? So if I talk about the management port into my device, that is connected with management plane. That is not connected with control plane. This is your management port on your firewall. Once we plug the cable to my management port, that would directly put you into the management plane, right? And once you click on commit, your traffic will move from management plane to control plane, right? So that is the main difference. So guys, let's move back to the architecture part, uh, Palo Alto architecture. All right, guys. So this is your Palo Alto has single pass parallel processing architecture, right? Again, we have one control plane over here. Control plane and management plane all are working together. And on the another part, what my control plane doing? My control plane sending 3 copies of a single packet and processing it in a 1 second. 1 second is just for example. That is not the committed time by, or that is not a theoretical time. But just for example, I am taking it as a 1 second so that we can understand the process. Right, guys? So this is how my hardware working. So my hardware is parallel processing hardware, and the software is single pass software. Right? It means we are processing a single packet parallelly within a second. Right. So actually, this parallel processing hardware invented by Palo Alto. That is why your Palo Alto firewall is most popular. That is why I cannot say that is why, but that is one of the reason to buy this firewall. Every firewall has a different architecture, guys. But this is for Palo Alto, right? Now move back to the upper part of this Palo Alto architecture, right? Now, single pass software, and the second one is parallel pass hardware. Single pass software. Palo Alto Network single pass software is designed to accomplish 2 key functions within the Palo Alto Network next generation firewall. First, the single pass software perform operations once per packet. Once per packet. As a packet is processed, networking function, policy lookup, application identification and decoding, and signature matching for any and all threads and contents are all performed just once, only once, right? As I already told you. Now, this significantly reduces the amount of processing overhead required to perform multiple functions in one security device. This is your first task. Now, second, the content scanning step in Palo Alto network single pass software is stream based and uses uniform signature matching to detect and block threats, right? To block threats, my firewall using the signature part, right? We will cover it later on in further classes. What is signature? What is unknown signature, right? So don't worry about these all words. Right? Now, let's move to this point. The single pass traffic processing enables very high throughput and low latency with all security function active. It also offers the additional benefit of a single fully integrated policy enabling simple, easier management of enterprise network security. Right, guys? So now I already told you about the parallel processing hardware. So we do have some key points over here. Let us go through with it once. Now, the first point is networking. Now, after this parallel processing hardware, what advantage that we get from this parallel processing hardware? Networking, routing, flow lookup, stats, counting, NAT, and similar function are performed on network specific hardware. Now, if I talk about the parallel processing hardware, basically we have three key components. So here you can see that the SP3 model has three specific functions: app ID, content ID, and user ID. Right? Or in other words, you can say this is your one function and this is your second feature, one, second, and three, third. This is your first specific function of your single pass through engine, and this is your second, and this is your third one. Now, I already showed you everything on the image. This is your policy engine, first part. Second is your this one, and the networking is your third one. Now let's start with the networking part. Networking and management. So in networking and management, we do have features like routing protocols. We can enable routing protocols into my firewall, right? So these type of portion means we can configure the interface IP interface IP, right? Or we can we can give an IP address to an interface. So this will come into the networking part, networking and management of your firewall. Look at this point: networking, routing, flow lookups, stats counting, NAT, and similar function are performed on network specific hardware. It means that is the part of your networking part. Right. Now the next is user ID, app ID, and policy. User ID, app ID, or and content ID, right? All occurs on multi-core security engine with hardware acceleration for encryption, decryption, and decompression. Right, guys? So, guys, are you getting my point? Have you understand everything about this architecture? Can anybody explain it to me right now? If you are getting my point. Guys, can somebody explain this architecture to me?
Is anybody going or I'll start?
Yes, you can start. No problem.
Okay, so on the left hand side is the input. Once
Yes.
the input arrives, it will create 3 copies.
Yes.
Simultaneously, it will be processed by 3 different engines.
Right.
And then it is passed to the management depending on what the output is required, and then
Yes.
it will decide how that traffic is to be routed. So the control plane will decide how to route the traffic. Once that is decided, then the output of that data will flow through the 3. I'm not quite sure if they are also engines, but it will be going through the hardware engines where it will be simultaneously passed through, and the parallel processing of a hardware is done, and a single pass of a software will then pass through the output, where it will hit the actual whatever ISP or wherever it's going.
Right. Right. Perfect. Guys, so what is your name?
Done.
So what?
Done. DHAN.
Okay. So guys, are you all sleeping today or what? Only one person attending my class I can see over here. Right? But I can see we have
Everybody,
57.
No,
yeah,
we're not sleeping. Just muted because of the
one person
background
already
noise.
explained. So if you want, yeah, we can also explain. Yeah.
Okay, right. So guys, can somebody else would like to add something?
I mean, a lot of, as for myself, I mean, a lot of people have different scopes and levels to understanding. Like this is good, but it's best to see it in a topology view. You know, like I like
Right.
this outlook as I had screenshotted myself. But
Mm-hmm.
even though I screenshotted, it's this is just like looking at it at a single point of view, just one hardware. But seeing this in a topology base in a real life, you know, look, it's more
Mm.
you know, you can see what's going on better. Just seeing it live, just for me. I'm just saying for my understanding. That's why I can't actually grasp everything, but I understand what's going on inside of the actual hardware device itself.
Mm.
Yes.
It's a single pass parallel processing.
Yes.
Like it's a single pass means on at the one instant
Mm.
there are we can processing uh, sending the packet into networking security content. It will be processing at the
Yes.
parallelly processed at
Processing. Yes.
one instant. So it is a single pass, and parallel processing means uh, so it will be packet flowing all three at the same time. So
Yes.
it's called parallel processing hardware. So single pass means in a single pass itself, it will be processing at a parallelly to process the packet to routing into the
Mm.
network.
Mm. Perfect.
It has the three plans: control
Yes.
plan, management plan, data plan.
Right.
So everything working together. Yeah, all three plans are working together.
Yes. Now every firewall has these three planes. Even your router also has these three planes. My router also has management plane, control plane, and data plane. My switch also has these three planes. If I'm using any
And money. Can you explain about the management plan, control plan, data plan once again?
yes, for sure, for sure.
It will be more clear. Yeah.
Right, right. I do have this image with me. Okay. Let me show you one more image. Suppose this is your device, whatever the device, whether it is firewall, router, or switch, whatever it is, right? And this is your management port, or this is your console port and management port. Now, this is your management plane, and this is your control plane where you have RAM, processor, CPU, and hard drive, and all the things in your control plane. And this is your forwarding plane where you have ports. Port number 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8. Port number 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. And this is your console port. and this is your management port. Now, my console port and management port always connected with your management plane. This is my control plane. Control plane where we have all routing table, policies. If this is firewall, then we have some policies over here. Policies, or you can say app control, app ID policy means you are blocking some kind of application, right? So the policy would be installed into your control plane. Next, this is your forwarding plane. Totally we have 3 planes: management, control, and forwarding plane. Right, guys? Now, suppose we have one computer over here, desktop, user A, which is connected with this management port, right? And I took the GUI portion of GUI portal of this firewall, right? GUI access of this firewall, and I deployed some policies, right? I created one policy to block any particular traffic from which is coming from port 1 to port 8. Suppose, now let me know about, suppose you have one policy where you don't want any traffic to pass through with the port number 1 to port number 8, right? We don't want anyone to send traffic between 1 and 8, in other words. Okay, so now with the GUI access, I created this policy, right? And we once we click on commit, or if in case of router you are using Cisco router, we type the command which is right, or you can say we are saving this. Once you click on save button, this command will move from this management plane to my control plane, and my control plane will save all the decisions. Suppose we created one policy to this PC, right? Now once we click on commit, it will directly send it to control plane. Guys, are you getting my point?
Yeah.
Right. So the policy directly moved to control plane, and my control plane has all the policies with it, but my forwarding plane don't know about all the policies, because my control plane is the brain of this firewall, or the brain of this device, who will decide where to forward the traffic or where to not, right? And now we do have one more user which is connected with port number 1, and this is user B. And user B would like to send some data to user C. This is your user C. My user B would like to send some packets to user C. Now, suppose my user B is sending one MP3 file, .mp3 file. Now, once we send this packet to the port, forward this packet to the forwarding plane. Once my forwarding plane receives this traffic on port number 1, my forwarding plane will send this packet to control plane, and my control plane decides whether we have to send this packet or not. Now my control plane will check this packet and found that this packet is not allowed as per the policy number 1. Policy number 1 says packet from 1 to 8 would be denied. Would be denied. Once my control plane matches this policy, it will send all the instruction to my forwarding plane, and my forwarding plane will take the decision and destroy all the packets over here. It will never send any traffic on port 8 because as per my control plane, that packet would be blocked. That is not allowed. Right, guys?
Yeah,
I
Mani.
hope,
Yep.
yeah, I hope now you understand the
Yes.
concept of this.
That
Yeah,
is
it's
clear.
a simple. It's a simple example actually, but for the management plan, in the management plan, there is only will taking like if we are connecting the PC to the management port and
Yes,
to putting an input means to creating a policy, and
right.
then the policy will be saving onto the control plan. So that is the only thing is doing by management plan.
Yes. In case of router, you have routing table. In case of firewall, you have policies. In case of switch, you have MAC address table. Device can be changed, but the processing would be same. Now, the architecture we guys were talking about that is installed into your control plane. That is not the part of your management plane or the forwarding plane, because control plane is the brain of your device.
Yeah, so the control plane as a
Yes.
whole, everything is user based. You know, from the management port to the 8 ports here. So everything is based off the user. So everything is going to react and go along based on what the user is trying to do. So if the user is trying to go from port 1 to port
Yes.
6, port
Yes.
6, the control plane will, analyze what is going on, and if it's
Yes.
everything
It
is
will take the
permitted,
decision.
it would make the
Yes.
decision, and if it's allowed or not allowed, then it would go based off of that. And then whatever is done, the management plane also is managing the whole thing, so it's aware of it, and it's aware of it in this GUI platform.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So everything is user based from the management point of view to the 8 port point of view, and just the control plane governs the processes. As the
Right.
traffic comes, as the traffic
Manage
comes.
on the management plan. Can we create profiles like if we taking like a firewall normally,
Yes.
if you want to create a profile for network administrator,
Yes.
we
But
can create.
once you
mm,
yeah, once you click on commit, it will directly be installed to your control plane. It will not be the part of management plane. Once you click on commit,
mhm.
right
So is there
now.
any other like process, or is there any other mm, actions action will be taking or doing by management plan?
My management plane. No, that
Yeah,
is the only action. That is the only action, guys.
like
Only.
whichever we want to configure, like whichever we want to create it.
Mm.
So those things are taking part on the management plan, right?
Yes.
That is the only thing.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. Suppose, let me give you one more example of management plane traffic. Suppose I have accessed my firewall with the GUI and created policy number 1, policy number 2, policy number 3, and suddenly I click on this cross button and my portal got closed. Now, if I relog in the portal, my GUI portal, can I get all the policies back?
Did you
Yeah,
commit
definitely. If
to
you are
it?
saving it, actually.
No,
Did you commit to it?
I did
No,
not
then it would
commit.
no, it wouldn't. It's like having a router. You run the running config, and if you reboot the router without saving it, you're not gonna have that information in a startup. It is similar thing the way I see it.
No. Okay. Let me tell you my question one more time.
So it's
Suppose,
without
yeah,
commit, it's not set in control plane, right?
Yes,
yes,
it's not gone to the control plane.
but
It's like you've actually saved it but not
mm,
committed, so therefore the control plane will not action that.
right.
So it's kind of some drafting facility available in management plane. So
Uh,
it will
right. Yes,
allowing when we relog in.
yes. So in case of firewall, we create a kind of draft.
Hmm.
Suppose we are sending an email to someone, and suddenly my email application got closed. So my what my email application does? Email
Yeah, it
application
would be saved.
created that email to draft.
Draft,
Same,
it'll save
yeah,
it.
Yeah.
same in firewall. Same process in firewall. Now all the policies or whatever the configuration you were doing previously were saved into your management plane. Once you click on commit, it would be installed to your control plane.
So as far as the computer B is concerned, end user client, there is no interaction with management plane, because management plane is purely to administer, create the policies and execute it. Once it's been executed, it will go to the control panel. Control panel will now decide what is allowed, what is denied, and then it will pass it to the forwarding plane, and then the packet will forward to whatever, however it's been configured. Is that correct?
Yes, yes, right.
Money,
Now let me
can
yes, yes,
money, can
yeah.
we show the process? Like, can we see like how much of processor has been utilized by control plane, data plane? Like, do we have to do that sometimes? Like, if the router is or if the firewall is running slow, like those kind of things.
Guys, every firewall has a different kind of hardware. But if I talk about my Palo Alto firewall, right, we do have every plane has their. Uh, this is your MGMT plane. This is your control plane, and this is your data plane. So in case of Palo Alto, we do have different processor for each plane, different processor and RAM. Let me show you an image. Here you can see this is your control plane, this is your data plane, right? Control plane already has the management plane with it, right? So there is no other another portion. Control plane plus you can say this is your management plane as well. So my management plane has a dedicated CPU with it, RAM and hard disk as well. If I talk about data plane, my data plane also has separate CPU and separate RAM. And this is your flash memory, right? And it also contains separate RAM. So we have, if I talk about Palo Alto, in case of Palo Alto, we have this kind of architecture. Now, what's the benefit of this architecture or this hardware adjustment? The benefit of this hardware adjustment is, in case my control plane got stuck somewhere, in that case, my data plane will keeps on working, keeps on forwarding. it will not got stuck at the same time. Now, how my forwarding plane taking decision if your control plane is down?
Because in data plane also we have RAM.
We have one copy of the control plane
Yes.
policies, right? My
Yep.
data plane also contains one copy of all the decision into their flash memory. Data plane also has one hardware or hard disk or hard drive, so that it can save all the control plane decision to its memory.
Okay.
Right. So in case of Palo Alto firewall,
At any point which we are creating any policy on the management plan, which will be saving on control plan, though that policy, like maybe already have 8 policy, like for example 8 policy in control plan. If ninth policy, if you're creating
yes,
it and saving into the control plan, the ninth policy, how it will be saving into data plan concurrently, or how it will be, like even ninth policy also will be saving into data plan simultaneously.
yes, simultaneously, definitely. Once we click on commit, uh, your one policy would be added. So 8 plus 1 equal to 9. So once it got updated, it will send a copy to your forwarding plane. Now my forwarding plane also has one hard drive attached with it. Now it will also get updated at the same time. Now
Only
if
in
we,
this case, new policies can we make new policies in case of failure of data plane, or just it will work for only for the previous policies which are saved in cache and hard drive?
yes, could you please repeat your question?
You said if the data plan is fail, still the forwarding plan and
No,
other plan will work. It will forward the packets,
no. If a
and it has the one copy of data plan.
Hmm.
My question, it has data, but can we make new policies during that time? And
If
it
your
will work?
if your control plane fails, you will get one alert or one notification that your
correct.
control plane is not working as of now. Please reboot your device.
Yeah, you cannot commit to any of the
You
new
cannot
policies.
make any changes. You cannot install any new policy to your device. First, you need to restart your device. For that, you need to take the permission from your manager, and once your manager will give you downtime, at the same time you have to restart your device. In case of two firewalls, you can use high availability feature of firewall. If your control plane got stuck somewhere, you won't be able to install any kind of policy to your control plane. Guys, getting my point? So is
Yep.
this the answer of your
Yeah.
question?
Mm.
Yeah, very
Ye-
clear. Thank you, Mani.
Yeah, Mani, this is clear actually. I mean, like, there is no point in spending more time actually speaking. Yeah, this is very straightforward.
Yes.
Thank you.
Uh, all right, guys. So let's move back to the architecture part. So now we have user ID, content ID, and all things. Now my app ID feature, identifying the application, I already told you about it. And the content ID feature is scanning the content at the same time. Means just in a single second. It is scanning your data, threads, and URLs, all the things at the same time. Basically, content ID contains 3 features with it, and we will I'll let you know in further classes. Don't worry about it. Now, next is user ID. User ID will decide whether that user is authorized user or that is your unauthorized user. So my user ID will check this kind of portion, right? Now the control plane and the data plane. Control plane. management functionality is provided via a dedicated control plane processor that drives the configuration management, logging and reporting without touching the data processing hardware. Means all the logs, reports, all policies, everything would be installed into your control plane. And it will never ever touch your forwarding plane, because once we touch your forwarding plane, you might get, or you might face the data slowness issue, or you can face performance issue with your firewall, right guys? Performance issues. That is why we do have separate processor, separate RAM for each and every engine, right? Now, next is data plane. It's the traffic forwarding plane with different chipsets. Can be broken into three functions: signature match process. Uh, we have total three functions over here: signature matching, and regular expression, and security processor. Now, signature match processor inspect traffic built on regular expression, right? Next is security processor matches against security policies. It checks the security policies. Next is network processor is used for traffic forwarding, etc. Right? So this is your data plane. I already explained everything in my own words, or I can say in kind of a story. Now, networking. So we already gone through with this image.
Mani, can you explain about signature? The signature, exactly what will be doing by signature matching?
Yes, right, guys. Guys, if I talk about the signature part, I'll be covering this in the session of IPS and IDS. Once we reached on this topic, I'll explain you what is signature, because that's not a very small topic. So it again, it would be your time taking topic, right? So I'll not be covering it today. I'm sorry for that. Right, guys? So yeah, so we were talking about the architecture.
So the
Control
data,
plane.
whatever that comes in, that will actually put in one of these three buckets, money, like networking, security, and signature. Can you just go up once, scroll up?
Hmm.
Yeah. So there are three buckets here, right? I mean, like the data plane will be segregated into any one of these things. Is there something like that?
Yes, yes. In the end, I'll show you the packet flow over here. So this is your packet flow. I'll let you know how my firewall processing the packet. Right. So you don't need to worry about all these points. Right, guys. So we already done with the hardware configuration of my firewall. My firewall has control plane with a dedicated CPU, RAM, and hard disk, hard drive, right? And my data plane also has uh, dedicated RAM and CPU as well.
Mani, if this possible, can you give a short note for these 3 points: flash matching, hardware engine, multi-core security processor, 10 gigabit network processor?
Sure, sure. I'll give it to you. No problem. Right. What I'll do is I'll update the same file. Right. This is our same day 2 file. Right. I'll once I update it, I'll send it to you. I'll share it with you. Right. So you need more info about these three processing, right?
A little more information, little
Okay.
more. Just a note, short notes.
Sure. I'll update this file and I'll send it to you. So now, guys, let's move to the next part of your architecture, firewall architecture, right? So now, how my firewall processing the packet? Now this is your packet flow. In other words, suppose my packet entered to my firewall from this point. Now, first initial packet processing. One packet entered to my firewall. Now, how my firewall processing this packet, right? So, in this packet flow, I'll be telling you how my firewall process any kind of traffic or any kind of packet. Now, once we receive packet on this interface, this end, first it will check the source zone / address or user ID. So now, if I talk about Palo Alto, in case of Palo Alto, we have zones, zones concept, right? In case of ASA, if somebody have knowledge about ASA, we do have security levels over here. Security level, right? To decide which interface is more trusted and which interface is least trusted. But in case of Palo Alto, we can create zone. Your inside zone is most trusted zone, and your outside zone is your least trusted zone. Right, guys? In case of Palo Alto, we have zones concept. In case of ASA, we have security level of concept. Means if you have zero security level, it means you are connected with untrusted interface. And if you have 100 security level, it means you are from a trusted zone, or I can say trusted interface. Right. So now move back to the packet flow. Now this is your zone. Means my firewall will decide, will check from which zone my traffic is coming. Right. Now once my firewall checks the zone part, now it will look up for the PFB, policy based forwarding, and it will check where I need to forward this packet. Now after that, it will look at your destination zone. Suppose we have sent some packet from inside. So here we are checking inside, and your destination zone is your outside. And after that, after checking the destination zone in that particular packet, my firewall will check the net policy, whether any net policy enable on this packet. Do we have to NAT this packet or not, right? After checking the NAT policy, my packet will move to the next portion, which is security pre-policy, right? Security pre-policy checks allowed ports. If the packet, suppose the packet has port number 80 request, so my security part of this policy or security part of my firewall is going to be checked, right? If this port number is allowed or not. Suppose this is allowed, then this packet would be forwarded to the next step, which is session created. It means my firewall will directly create the session, and it will not check other processes. It will never check all the things, because once we create session, we don't need to check application security policies. So this is a kind of packet flow. Now your packet is flowing from this direction to this direction, right? Once we create the session, it means everything would be fine, and we my firewall done with all the checks. Guys, are you getting this point?
Yes.
Yeah. Yep.
Right. So this is your packet flow firewall. In case suppose this port number is not allowed on this end, So now my packet would directly be forwarded to the application part. Now this is my application filter. Now my application filter will checks for encrypted traffic. Next is decryption policy, and the next is application override policy. Then it will check the app ID.
Yes, this is the policy. If it's not
Yes.
session, then it goes in depth, goes in deeper inspection.
Sorry.
Yes, once the session is not created at security pre-policy, then that means
Yes.
that there are some extra additives to this
Yes.
packet.
Yes.
So now it's going to
Yes.
deep.
Right.
It's
Right.
called deep inspection.
Yes, deep inspection, right? So now my packet is moving towards the deep inspection. Now we are checking the application part of the packet. We are also going to check security policies, and after that we are checking the post policy processing, right? So we at the end of the processing of this packet, let me show you one example, or we can do one thing. Suppose this is your firewall. This is your inside interface, and this is your outside interface, right? Now, once we receive that the packet, suppose we have 1 KB of text file. Someone sending 1 KB of text file from your inside network. User is sending 1 text file from your inside interface. Now, how my firewall processing this packet? Once we receive this packet, we will check the zone, we will check the policy based forwarding, we will check the destination zone, NAT policies evaluated. After that, we will check the security policy, right? So this is the packet flow of my firewall. And if I talk about other firewall, every firewall has their own packet flow, right? Cisco ASA has a different kind of packet flow. Cisco FTD has a different kind of packet flow. Always remember, even if I talk about the models of the firewall, sometime it varies. Sometime, right? It all depends upon the requirement of the client. If my client wants to check the NAT policy later on, first it would be first my client means as per the client requirement, we can change the packet flow as well. But most of the time it would remain same. Most of the time it would remain same. It will never be changed. If I talk about this packet flow in prospective to your interview, most of the time this question would be asked to you: how my firewall will process a packet once it received on my inside interface. Maybe you will get this question from your interviewer, maybe or maybe not. Right, guys? So I don't think so I need to spend much more time on this packet flow, because that is very easy and very easy to understand, and
Yes.
right. So these are other security checks my firewall is going to perform. And now once we jump back to the GUI part of my firewall, you will start getting these all points. Don't worry about it, because as of now we are just reading out, or we are just going through with the theoretical part. Once we move to the lab portion, we will we will be getting all the points about this architecture part, flow logic part, right, and everything. Now, so guys, as per me, this is all about your architecture part, right? I created this note and added all the important points to it, right? So you will get this copy from Sagar. He will give you the copy of this file, and I'll update you. I'll update this file by adding these three more points, right? I'll update it tonight or maybe in tomorrow morning, and I'll send it to you, or I'll share this file with the Sagar, and Sagar will help you out to get this file. Now, let's move to the third part of today's session, which is lab part, right? So let me show you how we are going to access our labs. So this is my remote desktop session, right? I'm connected with my server. Let me open the Dmz. So here I'm going to show you the lab where we are going to perform all the practicals. Basically, this is the IP of my Dmz, right? Once you get this option, you need to enter the username and password. So this is not visible. Default console or HTML console. Okay, C login. Now, once you click on login, you will get this page. Right now, I am logging into my Eve ng. Right on the left hand side, you can see one Palo Alto lab topology that we already installed in this server. Once you click on it, you will get this open option over here. Click on open. So this would be our topology for our future classes, where we are going to perform all the practicals, right? Just click on open. Right. Hey guys, let me try to open it with Mozilla. So basically, this is your Eve-ng login portal, right? Once you click on open, you will get this lab on your screen, right? So this would be your lab for Palo Alto that we will perform all the tasks on this lab right now. Let me explain you some nodes of this lab, right? So guys, we do have two firewall, one firewall and the second firewall, right? Guys, am I audible to all?
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, very
Right,
clearly.
right. So now we have two firewalls in this scenario or in this topology. Suppose this is your headquarter firewall and this is your branch firewall. You can take example like that. Or if you don't want, you can think like that. This is your one branch. Both firewall deployed into the one office. Yeah. Yes. Yes. Right, guys. So again, this is your one branch. Let me give you one example. This is your one branch, right? Suppose this is your headquarter. This is your headquarter network, and my firewall. This is your internet, or you can say this is your ISP, from where you are getting a static IP towards your router, right? And you can say this is your. In other words, we can say this is your PE, and these two routers connected with your MPLS cloud. In other words, you can say like that. But here we are talking about the security part. We are not going to start with the MPLS and all kind of things, right? Just forgot about it, right? We already configured these two routers, and now my firewall has an internet reachability through these routers, right? Firewall 1 also connected with the internet through this router, and firewall 2 also connected with the internet through this router, right? It means this is your outside interfaces 1/2, 1/2. These two interfaces are your outside interfaces. In other words, you can say like that, right? Now, on the right hand side, you can see we do have two routers, right? In these two routers, I have enabled HTTPS services. This is your server 1, this is your server 2. HTTPS server 1, HTTPS server 2. It means this portion is your DMZ zone. DMZ zone, where we have servers that is exposed publicly. I'll let you know about what DMZ zone is. Don't worry about it, right? I'm just explaining this diagram to you. You don't need to worry about it, right? So this is your DMZ zone. This firewall is connected with your DMZ zone. This is your outside zone, and this is your inside zones. So now we have a redundant connection for your inside people, right? And this interface is also your inside zone. This is your inside zone, and again this is your outside, and we do have redundant links between these two firewalls. We do have three redundant links between these two firewalls, right? In case of any link goes down, the other link will start sending packets, start
Yes.
processing the packet.
Yeah. Mani, is this HSRP config?
No. Palo Alto don't have HSRP feature with them.
When it's a
They
HA configuration,
It's a HA pair.
HA configurations, okay.
availability, right? HA.
Actually, we can call it as a tagging, right? Like,
Yes.
yeah.
Tagging.
So could you please explain like what is the reason behind you are connected a Palo Alto, then switch and then the router? What is the motive behind here in this diagram? You said it's an inside source.
Right. What is the reason behind that? Why I am using switch over here?
No, not that's the DMZ zone. I understood, but here the Palo Alto, you are connected a switch and then the router. So that's what I was asking.
Okay, then the router. You can use any PC, desktop. Don't worry about it. I'm
No,
using
on
router.
the router at the ISP side. If the ISP side is down, then how the traffic will flow with the higher availability?
So guys, are you talking about this part or this part? Inside part
I'm
or
talking
outside?
about the inside part actually. That outside part I
Yes,
understood.
yes. Why I'm using the router over here, right? The reason behind that is so that we can debug it and because most of the people very familiar with Cisco router. That is why I'm using router. If you don't want any router, you can use a simple desktop with CMD command prompt. We can replace it. So with the router, we can use debug command. Apart from that, we can see logs. That is the reason I attached one router over here.
Usually, I mean, the firewalls will be connected to the router, not the
No.
switch. But here you are connected switch to the Palo Alto, so firewall. So
Yes.
I was just asking, what is the reason for your you connected a switch?
No, that should be PC actually. It's a Unix and Windows machine. But
right. But to get the logs, if I use Windows machine, I cannot get all the logs.
Okay.
I won't be able to read the logs. But if I use router, I would be able to read the logs if I enable debug IP any command. Sorry, debug IP some kind of command, so that we can read on the logs, and we can also enable the logs on these routers, so that we can check who is sending the request to this router, or how my router processing the packet. That is why I'm using the router. If you want to simplify, if we want to make this diagram too simple, we can use any Windows PC.
Money for HA, does it need a special license?
HA, yes, it needs a license. For HA for wildfire feature, we need license. But you know, if
If we are keeping firewall directly connecting to the ISP or internet side, means we have included router here. Can we connect directly to the internet?
yes, definitely, for sure, you can connect it directly.
So
Instead of router, we can use like any OINT or someone like that, right? A direct link also we can give it to the
what is the purpose including the router here while connecting?
Let me show you our diagram. Guys, I created this diagram according to one real-time environment scenario. That is the reason I am using router. One more reason is there. You can see we do have one all 5 firewalls lab, right? So this is my lab. Now, if I talk about any branch, so this is a kind of real-time scenario, guys. Every firewall, every branch is connected with one router, so that we can directly get connected to the MPLS cloud. That is another reason I am using router. If you want, you can directly connect it. Right. Again, the process will remain same. You will get all the internet connectivity same like before. So I don't think so that matter for you.
In case as it is placed in the outside zone, our router can get exposed, no?
Guys, again, suppose this is your ISP and your ISP has two routers. Just forget about it. These two routers were installed into your telephone exchange. I hope now you understand the topology or the diagram.
Yeah, right now you have bypassed the router and directly connect to the ISP network. Firewall directly connect to ISP. Like that you want to
Yes, you
convert?
can say like.
Okay.
Right. So this is your again outside interface, out, DMZ, inside. These all are your failover links.
Yeah, these I got, but if right now we have shown the ISP connected directly to the firewall, I can understand. Actually, I'm
Right
not.
now we have the diagram actually.
Yeah.
This is the time
Money,
we are going to configure it.
Money. Can we
Money,
please
just one
stick
question.
to the topics because
Yes.
these are all advanced stuff, and his microphone is totally out of proportion. He's just destroying it. Can we please
Right.
stick to your syllabus? Because see, I'm really interested in learning, and as we go, we will be able to understand why we've got a router there, and we can then discuss it
Right.
after. At the
Right.
moment, I need to know how to use the lab.
Yeah, that's
Right.
right. That's right.
Okay. Right, guys. So to use lab, we do have some options, right?
As long as we are moving, you can ask the
Yes.
questions and everything.
Yes, right. So now suppose we do have two firewalls with us, right? And now this is your management port of your firewall. Now this management port of these two firewalls are connected with this net cloud, right? And we do have one Ubuntu operating system over here, right? Once you click on this icon, you will get the GUI access of your both firewall directly because your Ubuntu system, or I can say Windows PC, is connected directly with the management port. Let me power on one firewall and show it to you, the CLI portal of this firewall, right? Once you click on start and just double click on it, so guys, I'm using the management port to access my firewall, right? To take the GUI access, and from this point, we have user setting over here, right? And with this user, we can take the access of your both firewall, right?
Yeah, so this is like similar to ASDM.
ASDM, right? Exactly. ASDM, we use it for Cisco ASA. Right, but ASDM basically is a specific software that we need to install into the flash memory of my Cisco ASA. But in case of Palo Alto, we have pre-installed software. We just need to configure my management interface, right?
Yes. Yes.
We just need to configure a management interface into my Palo Alto firewall. Once we give any IP to the management interface, after adding the IP, after giving the IP address to my Palo Alto firewall, we would be able to take the GUI access of that firewall, right?
Yes, that's right.
So this is your terminal for Palo Alto Firewall 1. So by default, if I guys in further classes, I'll be covering how to configure management port, how to give an IP address to your interfaces, how to create policy, URL filtering, all the features. So you don't need to worry about it. Right. So this is the lab portion that we will be covering in future or further classes, right? So you don't need to worry about it. Guys, any more question about lab? Don't ask me such kind of questions like why you put it this router, because every router over here we have for a reason, right? Why should I consume my memory? Why should I use my server uh, for extra router? Guys, any more question about lab?
So, what topics we are going to discuss on this lab and this specific lab, Mani?
In the specific lab, we are going to enable all the firewall features that we mentioned into our syllabus, right? Now, if I talk about the syllabus part, just hold on a second. So here we have one PDF file. Okay. Uh, Let me show you in my desktop. For Palo Alto, we will be covering these all 49 topics during this class, right? The features like NAT and TAT, routing part is static routing, dynamic routing, how to give default route from your firewall uh, towards your internet connectivity or ISP, right? Accessing DMZ zone servers. Apart from that, security policies, how to deploy it, right? Using tags, application ID feature, app ID response page, URL filtering, how to enable antivirus, threat prevention and anti-spyware, file blocking, SSL decryption. So these all are the topics we are going to cover in further classes. So this is your syllabus. Basically, you can download it from our portal, and if you want it on your email ID, you can share your email ID with Sagar. Sagar will help you with the syllabus part.
Yeah, Sagar's
Right,
already
guys?
sent
We
this.
have already
Yeah,
got an
We already
email.
have it.
yeah.
Thank you.
Money,
Yes.
one question
Yes.
regarding to the high availability for labs.
Yeah.
Will it be like an active configuration or active passive?
Guys,
When we are
actually,
doing a high
yeah,
availability class, he can teach, I think.
yes, definitely for sure. Actually, if I talk about the high availability feature, we only have two type of settings, right? I can say, let me cover it in short. Let me cover it up, right? Suppose you have two firewalls, firewall 1 and firewall 2, right? And we can deploy these two firewall in two ways, right? Two ways, one way and two way. First way is active, 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 active. Sorry. And the next is active and passive. So we have two ways to deploy a firewall into my network. Suppose if I'm using the first portion, which is active, active, it means your both firewalls sending traffic. Your both firewall working in active mode. This is also forwarding the traffic, and this firewall is also forwarding the traffic. This user also forwarding the traffic, and this is kind of like that, right? But I'll cover it in detail, right? You don't need to worry about it. Don't get panic when you listen this kind of thing, active standby, HA and all, right? I'll cover each and everything in detail, right? What is active, what is standby, right? In case of passive, let me give you an example. This is your active firewall. It means that is actively forwarding the data. If I talk about passive firewall, it means your passive firewall means your firewall is power on, but it keeps on waiting for the failover. In case of uh, this is your passive firewall, right? I configured it as a passive. Suppose I configured it as a passive firewall. In case of failover, suppose my active firewall got failed. In case of failure, my second passive firewall will become the active firewall and it start forwarding the packets through this link. So that is why we use HA concept, guys. Any more question? I am open for your questions.
So is the correct word for is it active passive or is it active standby?
Guys, if I talk about Cisco, it says active and standby. If I talk about active and Palo Alto, it says active and passive. I hope you know the concept about the passive interface. What is passive interface, guys?
Passive is just one which waits basically.
Yes.
It waits for the active.
Right. Passive interface is a kind of interface which keeps on listening. That's it. Which
Passive one
Uh,
is a secondary.
yeah, Mani,
Like
one more thing
brain
for the labs will be everything will be by scratch, right? It will be like scratch. We need to build it by scratch.
Yes, definitely it would be from the scratch, right?
Yeah, that's good.
Yes, in further classes, maybe after day 3 or sorry, not day 3, but day 4, day 5, day 6 class will include all the configuration part of
Yeah, that's why if
your Palo
because
Alto device.
yeah, because the students are interested in the practical, right, more than the theory. So in that case, if you can set us the like the what is the process we need to follow, which.
Sure, guys. I'll give you the task every day. Don't worry about it. I'll give you the task. I'll give you the task like you have to create 20 policies. I'll give you the difficult one. Don't worry. So that would
Sir,
be your homework.
hi sir. Just before signing off, tomorrow's session will be of 3 hours, 4 hours, and
Yes, Sagar, are we connected? Are you listening to us?
Hey, yeah. So Mani, what is your agenda? I mean, the normal regular hours is 4 hours for Saturday and Sunday, each 4 hours. But since this is up to you, this is your first week. I'm not sure if you want to take the complete 4 hours or might be you want to take 3 hours. Up to you.
Right.
Okay.
Actually, 3 hours would be fine for me for tomorrow's session. For next two session, I can say like that. All right, guys. Any more technical questions? Any questions from me or any question from Sagar? Any question regarding the syllabus? Any question regarding the lab part?
so sorry to interrupt. Uh, um, um, I'm a pre-sales consultant, solution consultant, and
Hmm.
I do not participate more in the configuration part. Okay,
Right.
so I just wanted to understand if there will be days where the how will it be? I mean, you will configure the devices, show it to us, and then we can practice it as a homework, right? That will be the flow, or you will ask us to configure live, or how will it be?
Okay. All right, guys. We can do two, three things. Suppose let's take one topic. Suppose we have one feature NAT. This is my firewall. Now we have two, three things. Now NAT, we have theory part first. Then I'll cover the configuration part. After theory, I'll cover the configuration part. Then we will verify. Fourth, T-shoot or troubleshoot. So I'll be using these all 4 points. If I am teaching you any kind of topic, any topic, suppose this is your app ID topic. In case of app ID topics, first I'll teach you the theory part. Then I'll move to the configuration part. Then after that I'll show you how to verify or this thing is working or not. This feature is working or not. Then we will move to the troubleshoot part. How do we troubleshoot in case of failure? If your URL filtering is not working, how you can troubleshoot? So this would be your process. I can say this is the process which I am following uh, when I teach to my students.
Money, how much time you are going to take? Is for Palo you are going to cover in Jan or Feb in FI as like that or?
All right, guys, it totally depends upon you as well, right?
No, you are
So,
right, but we have a lot of students, so it's depend, you know. Somebody will ask in the first class HA pair, so we are going to spend all the time on HA.
no. It's not like that.
So that is based on our probably I'm free this month, next month I'm not going to be. So that is my concern.
No, dear. No, dear. Never. We won't do that, right?
No, that's what.
After
It's
yeah.
like in Jan you're going to cover whole PA.
Yes, for sure. For sure.
Okay.
See, as per the Palo Alto, let me show you Palo Alto. As per the Palo Alto, the course duration for uh, PCNSA. We are talking about PCNSA. Okay, let me type one URL over here.
Yes, Sagar is mentioned like 1 to 1.5 months for each Palo and 12 hours per week. So I think that's sufficient.
Hold on a second. Let me show you the URL. Certification part. Okay. Yes, I'll definitely cover it before January or before Jan. Not before Jan, but end of this month. Right. If you have more grasping power, I can cover it in 3 days.
No, thanks. We'd like it where
So
we can digest what you say, please.
yes, so it totally depends upon you as well, right? If I'm sending some packets towards you, you also need to capture all the
No
packets.
money. I
If
mean,
we
like, no, I mean, actually, in the first class, everyone is asking about the different architect and not the basic question is, you haven't covered the PHA. So how is going to, what are the methods, active, passive? So these things are going to take, time. So each day you need to
yes.
cover based on that topics only they should ask the questions.
Yeah, I think you're right there, but what seems to be happening, these three lessons are for people to know what will be covered. That's why a lot of people are concerned.
Yes.
Otherwise,
Right,
he will
guys.
be
So
going in
yes,
steps.
yes. So today that would be the second day of our free session, right? And tomorrow
Hello.
would be the last one.
Money, I just want to clear for the guy who is asking about, you should not be asking about high availability. Then why the hell you are seeing the topology when there are two firewalls? What do you understand by that? And how is the configuration going to come into being? You need to understand the topology before you start doing the labs. You just don't do the labs. That is just like workbook you do, and then you don't understand anything. You need to understand the topology first before you do the lab. Okay? You got plenty of time to do the lab on your own, and workbook will be provided so you can use it. Now is the introduction class, so we need to see the flow of how things will go, so we are asking the questions, right?
Right.
It's not spoon feeding class. This one is not a spoon feeding class.
Yes, definitely. We all are mature enough.
Correct.
All right, Sagar. Guys, any more questions?
I mean, technically, it is
Yeah,
spoon fed. I
so
mean,
yeah,
we are being spoon fed at the end of the day.
yes. So
Just some.
everyone comes. It's just that 3 days are being open to the public.
Time for tomorrow.
So that is the reason might be we are seeing or we are hearing these kinds of questions from the future point of view, because that's a good question, valid question, to know what is covered and what is not covered, because later on we don't want student coming to us saying that you didn't cover this, you didn't cover that topic. So it's fine. I mean, 3 days we have discussed already to go in a slower pace, but from fourth day the meeting would be locked. It would be very less participant. The participant number wouldn't be what it is right now, and it will be more interactive and more engaging as well. So topics, questions, labs would be more focused from the day point of view. So if a trainer is coming up, let's say for Thursday's class or any class, he would tell in advance that he's gonna cover these many topics for the day. You guys are free to go and do your homework, and then you just come up prepared for those 3 to 4 topics. Trainer is gonna cover that, and it's kind of be more systematic. Okay, these 3 days. So just pardon us, everyone. So let's not be more into pinpointing for one or other reason. It's fine. So if someone wanted to know something from the long run, so it's fine. Before they enroll, it's fine that they know what they are gonna get from this batch. Okay, so that's all. So Mani, just I want to know from my side, what about this web portal and lab? I know the lab portal you have not received, the lab access you have not received, which is going on. But what about web portal? Did everyone get the access to the web portal and the Google Drive?
Yes, I've got it.
Okay, fine. So I'm not sure my screen is visible or not. Mani, if you don't mind, can I share my screen? I'll just walk through this
Yes.
web portal and the lab thing. Okay, yeah. So if you guys can see my can see my screen. So this is the web portal. I have pasted all the 3 demo classes which we had in the month of December. So we had the course in introduction, one topic from Palo Alto, and the third topic from FI. So 3 demos. Okay, and
Sagar,
then if
Sagar, we're not seeing your screen at the moment.
Sagar,
oh,
just. And can you please share the screen again from your end?
so is it visible now?
Not yet. We're
Just,
still
just
seeing.
hold on a
Okay.
second. Yeah.
Okay, now we can
Now,
see.
now it is visible.
Yep. Thank you.
Okay. So guys, those who have enrolled and those who have got the access to the web portal, so I'm just giving you a quick overview and walkthrough over this. So these are the 3 demos which we covered in the month of December. One topic from the basic course introduction and all the 5 technology discussions. The second demo was, of course, about the Palo Alto. The topic the student picked or the trainer picked was for wildfire feature. And the third topic was on the FI load balancer. So this is visible to everyone, even to public. I have kept it as a open watch to anyone who is attending this training. and rest are being logged. Okay, so you can see the small log symbol, and over here I have put the Google Drive. So your Google Drive is something where you will find all your class notes, the lab materials and workbook. So you don't have to bookmark any Google Drive. You just bookmark this URL, and this URL has everything. So we have included G Drive, and this is your class one. Class one is your previous day class, and the notes is once again put up in the G Drive itself. Okay, and I believe you guys know how to access this. I have sent an email to everyone, so you have to click that URL from the email, and it will. Okay, so I think I'm already logged in. Let me see this. Yeah, so this is the page. Okay, so you will get a pop-up called as please login. So you have to click on this, enter the username and password which we have given you, and there you go, you will get the access to this, and this is a complete lifetime access. So if you're missing even at 5 to 10 minutes, or you want to rewatch something, this is a lifetime access. The G Drive is with you. Keep it for yourself. Okay, and I'll just keep every document in one single file rather than giving on a WhatsApp or on a Slack. You all know we also have a Slack community. I have added 30 to 40 participants there. So that's for a wider range. Okay. If someone has any doubt, start using Slack, post it. The trainer is also, Money is also in that group. Even our lab trainer is in that Slack community. So if you have any issues, you can start making use of Slack. Okay. Even I had no application so far, but now I just downloaded one Slack application. It's a free software, and I'm just inviting all the guys. So we have 32 members as of now. So this is all your technical discussion, and in the back end we have all this WhatsApp for all the management thing and all those things. So that's totally different. Slack is your complete technical discussion. Okay, you have any issues with your enterprise, come and put it over here. This is very good. You know, you the code. I'll just show you. The code sharing is also very simple here. If you know WhatsApp, any Python code, if you just paste, it will lose its indentation powers. Okay, but over here in Slack, you can easily share anything. So if you have any enterprise related concerns, you wanna share, get some feedback from the uh, folks who have enrolled, make use of Slack. Okay, and regarding to the labs, okay.
Hello, please. Is there any group for Palo Alto, Cisco, or Fortinet in the Slack?
Yeah, for this is for enrolled batch only. I have made it for Palo as of now. So next month when we move towards the FI, I'll create one more Slack
Yeah.
community, and
Yeah.
I'll invite all the enrolled people to that community.
Yeah, thank you. That I understood that, but the question is if every single manufacturer has already a group in Slack, yeah.
I'm not sure. I'm not sure from vendor point of view if they use Slack. Might be they use LinkedIn for all their marketing and all. For Slack, I'm not sure. Vendors don't. This is from our side, so we have a community and we can share our own thoughts and the issues. Okay.
Okay. Thank you very much.
No problem. And one more thing, the final thing, that is a lab overview. If you guys remember, we have shared Excel sheet, right? So over on Excel sheet, I can see as of now, 4 to 5 students have got the lab access. And what our backend team has done is they have given some URL. Okay. So you have to use that URL, go to any browser. I would not recommend Chrome. So sorry for that. Okay, I'll go with some Mozilla Firefox because some nodes don't work the way it should work. So go with Mozilla or Chrome. Okay, even Microsoft Edge has some issues uh, loading the server. So go with Chrome or okay, or the Firefox or something. And then the username and password has been given to each one of you. Input your username, password, give the cache over here or whatever the symbol or whatever this security it's been prompting you, click on login. Okay, don't follow the default username that is been that was reflecting in the previous page. Okay, we have customized it. So the username and password is customized, so every student has their own logins. And as well as, okay, I think this is remain the same, not sure, but make use of the URL which is given to you guys. Okay, and this is how the lab would look like. You can close this lab. Okay, you can close this lab. You can see the other topology as well, which is a part of this. We have some automation lab or some CCNP full lab, the BGP labs. So if you want the Palo Alto, click over that, click on this. Okay, so this is your lab, and you have to click on this button called as open. Okay, and rest of the thing Mani have explained. Regarding this is your graphical interface. We have put a Linux, a tiny Linux here, and this has been taking an IP from DHCP now. So we have done a DHCP so that student don't have to do any static configuration. So it's taking up from from the net cloud itself. Okay, you can do a quick IP config to see on which range of IP you've been receiving, and then you can accordingly configure management as well, get the access to the management, and you can start playing. But yes, as we know, all know, Mani will first demonstrate, and then you can take it as a homework and then go ahead. And so right now there is no homework. Okay, I am not telling you to configure something. First let Mani get it started, or get this thing shown up in the class, and then you can probably work around. Okay, I'm just giving you a heads up because some student already started working on the technology. Okay, so for those guys, I just thought I'll give a small hint what is what in this particular topology. Okay, yes, UNL, you will get it, you will get the UNL. And of course, what bonus I told, right, even those guys have got received from my side. So some time back I had posted over on the chat window that give me your email ID and I'm gonna send you some files, right? So this is one of the files. So this is the UNL file which I shared with you guys. I also shared you the image of the Palo Alto. Check my email, and I have also included the class 1 notes, the class 2 notes, and also a workbook, the workbook for the lab number 1. Okay. So enrolled student, don't ping me. I mean, for enrolled student, ping me in the WhatsApp, the group where we are all connected. This is for someone who just joined and they are not enrolled yet. Okay, so those guys had dropped the email ID and I just emailed them everything. Those who are enrolled, just WhatsApp me and I'll send you the email to you guys. Okay. So any doubt, guys? Any doubt from web portal, lab portal, G Drive access, anything? You can
So Sagar,
always. Yes.
have you created a video where you show us how to install it on our devices, or that will be further down where you would explain? Because these bite-sized labs are a lot better when you're learning, and then you can use the complete schematic diagram that you had showed us yesterday. But to start off with, I think this sort of labs, somebody who's not familiar like me, would really make sense. And I just need to know, would I be able to install it on my device so that I can practice exactly what you've got there? Or it's only limited that you'll be providing me in order to do it on my machine?
Yeah. So what we will do is, Money, what he will do is he will probably when he's starting with the lab. I'm not sure whether the next class is with the lab. So what he'll do is he will show you how do we install Palo Alto over on EVNG.
Okay.
Okay. He may not spend a lot of time on
Sure, sure.
building, but at
Yep.
least one instance of Palo Alto, and then drag and drop of router and switches, or might be show that as
Sure.
well.
Okay.
And from there he will take it, okay, and from
Okay.
there he will start explaining the complete build stage. We usually do the same thing when we start with any batch. We first show the deployment on EVNG,
Yep.
GNS3, and packet tracer is out of the topic. We don't want packet tracer here because we cannot bring these multi vendors there, but at least we can cover up in at least VM as well, because these instances can also be deployed in VM if we have the OVA file. So
Yep.
we can show you three approaches, okay, and rest we will help you, or we will assist you from the backend. Our trainer, he will help you in setting up locally as well, okay. But
Excellent.
we is already doing it
Yep.
to some student he has already done where he has locally
Okay.
set up, but we will also cover all the three steps in the class itself.
Okay. Brilliant. Thank you.
Sagar, means I was done with the lab actually. I got the access and it is working fine. As you know, I was facing problems. But one thing I have noticed that the export CFG is missing, man. That is really needed. And plus destroy lab, just in case if you want to free the lab. Export
Okay.
CFG is missing because I have to do the lab third time because I didn't notice that export CFG is missing, and I have to reconfigure it again and again and again.
You
So
can
this is the
you can save the config, right?
I
Was
did
there?
that in the last lab. I saved it in the Ubuntu so that I can fetch it from
See,
my next.
I know why you're not able to get that the edit conf. The reason is the labs are locked. Okay, so that is
Hmm.
why when you do a right click, you don't see the option of
Correct, absolutely.
yeah.
Yeah,
How,
it's completely.
you try to save the config on the device itself.
I did that for the last lab. I did, but
Okay.
it is going to ask me again for the IP configuration and then mapping to the interface, and then I would be able to add the XML file. So this becomes
Okay.
little
Yeah,
bit
sorry for
complicated
that.
for other users as well who are
Sorry
new
for
to this.
that. I did mistakenly. I destroyed your previous configuration. I was upgrading some Palo Alto and some images, so that's why I need to be destroy your previous configuration. So right now I upgraded with Linux.
Yeah, I saw the difference. Yes,
Sorry
the
for that.
document is gone now.
Next
Yeah.
time it won't happen again.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah.
Fine.
Okay,
Thank you,
so
man. Thank
what you do is you try to save it if you don't want to do these basic configuration of IPs and all those things, interface configuration. You just save it right away on the lab, so you can just practice on the features directly. Okay.
Yeah, for that you need to enable export CFG. The core configuration or the advanced configuration can be done by pulling the config from the Ubuntu machine.
Okay. Okay. So we will
So
check
just,
from the back
just
end.
I
Okay.
know I know a lot of guys will complain at a later stage about this because once the machine is destroyed or rebooted, the whole config will go, and then again we have to do it. But once you save it, the configuration, the XML file in the Ubuntu, then you can fetch from there. That's not an issue. That's for the advanced, but for the basic, to get the GUI, web GUI, it would be necessary because the IP also keeps on changing because of the DHCP.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. So not an issue. We will see something from the back
Just
end from
highlighting that,
central.
it's up to you
We
guys.
will try to make it static or something so the IP
Correct.
don't change, or your config don't get changed or get
Correct.
wiped out. Okay.
Yeah. Rest is good.
So
Yeah.
Sagar,
So
not related to this one, but do you have any other? Are you planning on, or do you have a videos of BGP and OSPF?
yes, we have BGP and OSPF from CCNP batch, of course. I can share you the syllabus. Okay, the PDF for that.
No, I
Okay.
want. Yeah.
No, I'm just looking for the not the CCN whole CCNP. I just need to basically be confident in BGP and OSPF.
Yes, we have BGP 14 hours of videos, and OSPF might be 6 to 8 hours of videos. Okay.
Alton and Dino, may I get them as well, please?
Sorry, I could not hear you.
May I get those, please, as well?
Yes. Can you WhatsApp me after the class?
Okay.
I
Is that
think
is that gonna? So yes, yesterday you gave us a like you said there'll be a gift. So is that today? Those videos are today's gift.
I will write you an email, okay? Because I do not have WhatsApp.
Yeah, email. Okay, I'll put my email.
Okay.
Sagar, registered users would be giving the will be given the access to channels for automation and AWS also, or that's limited.
That is limited because every batches has a different.
Understand.
Yeah.
Sagar, this same deployment of the lab topology will be available for GNS3, correct? For the
See,
students who
right now, what I'm showing is on EVNG. But yes, these are all what do you say? Non-dependent on the emulator, so we can of course deploy on GNS as well. Because if you see that massive topology which I showed you yesterday, that was on GNS.
yeah.
We have, yes, we have both. I can say we have both. You just you just pick which you need, and we will deploy that for you.
Yeah. Because you like GNS3, you know?
Yes.
Like, yeah.
So the fun story is something which we found out throughout our teaching career, that when we started initially with CCNP, we had only the lab files done on GNS, and we were imposing GNS to every student. And those time we saw that student asking for EVNG Pro or EVNG. So what we planned, we tried to replicate same thing over on EVNG, and we started giving EVNG as a primary thing. Then students started asking for GNS. They immediately, I don't know why they started. I mean, the next batch they asked for GNS, and so we thought whichever batch we bring it up, we will create it in both the emulators. So students select or prefer whichever, and we are good with that, and we will provide them. So it's up to the student, but we have both the emulators. Okay.
I have one short question about TNS3 because I installed it years ago. I have experience with Packet Tracer and I have been playing with it the last weeks. But I guess it's necessary to have a registered user to use DNS3, right?
You're talking about GNS?
Yep.
No, GNS is a open source. I mean, they are gonna ask you a one-time registration, but if you have that registration done, then it's a free software to download.
Okay, then it's a registration required. Okay, thank you very much.
Yes.
Sagar, if I want to use EVNG on my local machine, so will you provide that software to us?
Yes, we are giving you the complete VM. So that is what I
Okay.
told you. So our trainer, he will contact and he will help you in setting this on a local machine also. But see, what happens is these firewalls are very high RAM consuming powers. Okay, so they need at least two virtual CPUs per instance, and it takes like 8 GB for one instance to load. So if you're practicing with one single instance with one router and switch, you at least need 8+ kind of thing in your system. And if you're thinking to run the complete lab topology, then I would say 16 GB is something which you would need for this small topology itself.
No, for small topology we are referring so that we can practice small lab in our
Yes,
local
if you
machine.
need only one instance of firewall, especially Palo Alto, it will take 8 GB. Even FI load balancer take two vCPUs and 8 GB RAM. It will not even boot up if you give one vCPU, or if you try to make it 4 GB, it will not even load up. So it needs very high RAM. Whereas ASA, it will run in like 1 GB also. So ASA you can deploy 3 4 instance, but checkpoint and Palo Alto and FI, they'll consume very heavy resources. Okay, Fortigate you can start in 4 GB, and one vCPU will be sufficient.
Okay, so Sagar, so does it make any difference which emulation you're using? Because I got the understanding EVE-NG uses less processing than GNS. Is that true?
No, not really, because some years back the GNS used to be a standalone clients, okay, and those time these GNS got, I mean the EVNG folks got the VM concept. Now
Okay.
what even GNS providers, GNS is also providing their VMs now. So
Okay.
once that virtualization concept has been introduced by GNS, I feel both are equivalent. It's just the user interface,
Which is
and
different.
yes, yeah, the
Okay.
initial deployment over on GNS is very simple.
Okay.
Mark my word, you just go to the GNS marketplace
Hmm.
and you will get the template, the ready-made template, which EVNG has not been introduced in like their 3-4 years of production in the market. Whereas
Okay.
GNS provides this appliance. Okay, it's very easy for you to deploy any image. You don't need to convert that VMDK to QK file, or you don't have to worry about getting the actual download link from the vendors, because
Okay.
these templates have everything stored within them. You just click on the image, it will
Yep.
redirect to the vendor's official website, enter your username, password, and just download it. But in the
Okay.
case of EVNG, you have to go from your own point of view, go to each vendor, download it, do the naming conversion. If you don't do the naming conversion, the EVNG platform will not even detect that instance. So the initial deployment is very difficult in EVNG. But
Okay.
yes, when you have a very large topology with a lot of nodes and all those things, I feel EVNG is better and stable, because your GNS will start creating some temp file, and the backend of VM will make some space shortage issues and all, which we have seen in the previous version of GNS VMs. But now I think they might have done something on that part. So
Okay.
once everything is set up, EVNG is good, but the
Hmm.
initial setup, I guess GNS is much better,
Hmm.
easier for you.
Okay. And the person who's going to be helping us to install the lab, uh, is he a trainer or is he a lab technician for you guys?
He's also a trainer,
Okay.
but more or less he will be giving, and he will be with you guys for complete lab. I mean, out of the class hours, okay? Because
Okay.
money can cover only the class hours.
Sure.
But yes, he will be present. I don't say he will not be helping you on answering your question. But
Sure.
the lab trainer, the other person, he will be more covering, more focused on the US time zones. Okay,
Okay. And what's his
so
name?
his name is Abdul. Okay,
Abdul.
so
Excellent. Thank you.
okay, fine. So are we good, guys? We good?
Yes. Very good.
Okay,
Very
fine.
happy.
So yes, yeah, thank you. And yes, guys who are taking or who are planning to take the day 3, so the registration link is once again the same. You have to register. The Zoom meeting would send some uh, meeting ID. That meeting ID remains I guess it remains the same. I have not checked that, but the registration link is same. You don't have to do 3 times registration. Okay, one registration, you will get some meeting ID. I guess that meeting ID is valid for all 3 days. I hope so. In case if that is not valid, then please do the registration, and you will get once again the mail from the Zoom backend, and then you have to join it. Okay, class hours 8:30 p.m. IST. It is supposed to be 4 hours tomorrow, but since as we discussed, Money also agreed for like 3 hours, and he's gonna uh, come up with new class and agenda, and I'll share the agenda with you guys. Okay, so you guys have a fair enough idea on what we guys would be covering on. Okay, so agenda will be shared with you guys like few hours before the classes. All right.
Thank you, Sagar. Thank you,
Okay.
Mani.
All right, guys.
On
So
on
have
the
a
web
nice.
portal, Sagar, actually, what about the username, which is not mentioned on the email? So username you will be share me on individually or what?
No. Username is your email ID itself. That's why I mentioned in the bracket that your registered email ID, which you have given to me over on the Excel file, right? You guys have given
Yeah.
me your email ID. So make use of that same email ID, and the password I have shared over on the email.
All right.
Okay. So if any doubt, when Abdul will reach out to you for the lab part of this one, troubleshooting or setting up, so you can also ask him. He is aware of all these things. Okay.
Thank you.
All right. Okay. All right, guys. So
Sure.
thank you and good night from India. So it's 11 p.m. here, and let's meet up tomorrow at 8:30 p.m. IST, which is 3 p.m. in UTC. Okay. All right, guys. Have a nice day. Take care.
Night.
Yes, okay. Thank you. Bye.
Yeah, bye bye.